18-year-old Naomi Irion was last seen in her car in the parking lot of a Walmart in Fernley, Nevada around 5 a.m. on March 12, 2022. Naomi had been waiting in her car for the shuttle that took her to her job at Panasonic Energy of North America. She parked her car around 5 a.m., then used social media from 5:09 a.m. to 5:23 a.m. At 5:24, surveillance cameras in the parking lot picked up a man wearing a gray hoodie, dark pants, and dark tennis shoes walking towards Naomi's car. 1 minute later, the video showed the car leaving the parking lot with the man behind the wheel. 3 days later, Naomi's car was found next to the Sherwin-Williams Western Emulsion plant, but she was nowhere to be found. On March 29, 2022, investigators received a tip about a possible gravesite in a remote part of Churchill County. They found the body of an adult Caucasian female, which was confirmed to be that of Naomi Irion. She had died from gunshot wounds to her head and chest. In July 2022, a man named Troy Driver was identified as the man in the surveillance footage. He was charged with kidnapping and first-degree murder. He later committed suicide in his jail cell on August 6, 2023, while awaiting trial. On December 31, 1989, 44-year-old Noreen Boyle vanished from Mansfield, Ohio, following a dispute with her husband, Jack. Noreen had filed for divorce from Jack earlier that same year. Noreen didn't know that Jack had been cheating on her and had planned to relocate to Erie, Pennsylvania with their 2 children and his mistress. The woman's name was Sherry Campbell, and she also happened to be pregnant with Jack's 3rd child. Investigators looked into Noreen's disappearance and learned that Sherry was posing as Noreen and had just finished buying a home in Erie. When the police went to the house, they found a patch of fresh concrete in the basement. When they dug it up, they found Noreen's body. She was naked and had a plastic bag tied around her head. Jack was arrested for Noreen's murder. Throughout his trial, he maintained his innocence but was convicted and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole for 20 years. He appealed, claiming the body found in the basement was not Noreen's, but DNA testing confirmed her identity in 1994 and his appeal was thrown out. Jack Boyle is still in prison and his next parole hearing is in 2025. On November 29, 2006, 27-year-old Avis Banks was found dead in the garage of her Ridgeland, Mississippi home by her fiancé, 31-year-old Keon Pittman. Avis had been shot and stabbed multiple times and she was 5 months pregnant at the time of her murder. After finding Avis's body, Keon didn't call 911. Instead, he called his coworker, Carla Hughes. He then ran to his neighbor's house and started banging on the door, at which point they decided to call the police. A search of the property revealed the back door of Avis's home had been kicked in. After looking through Keon's phone records, Carla was questioned by police and denied any involvement in Avis's murder. However, investigators soon discovered that she was sleeping with Keon behind Avis's back. Investigators also spoke to Carla's cousin, who informed them that he had loaned her a loaded .38 caliber handgun prior to the murder, then said that when Carla returned the gun, it was empty. In 2009, Carla Hughes was found guilty of 2 counts of capital murder because prosecutors proved that her cousin's gun was the murder weapon and that her shoes were used to kick in the door. She is currently serving 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. On January 28, 2008, 19-year-old college student Brianna Denison disappeared from a friend's couch in Reno, Nevada while visiting her for winter break. She had last been seen around 4 a.m. that morning and the pillow she had been using had blood on it. The couch was directly in view of the front door, which was all glass and wasn't locked. Her friend KT Hunter immediately called the police to report Brianna missing. 2 weeks later, Brianna's body was found by a man who had been walking back to work after his lunch break. He had spotted bright orange socks under a pile of tree branches in a ditch. Brianna was naked except for the socks and she had been sexually assaulted and strangled to death. There were also 2 pairs of women's underwear under her right knee. Once that information was released, the woman called the tip line to reveal that her friend had told her that she found a woman's thong in her boyfriend's truck. Using the DNA from the underwear and DNA from other sexual assaults that had taken place weeks earlier, investigators were able to link the murder to that boyfriend, a man named James Bila. He was arrested and charged with murder, 3 counts of kidnapping, and 3 counts of sexual assault. James Bila was convicted on all charges and given the death penalty with 4 life sentences for all his crimes. On February 13, 2022, 35-year-old Christina Lee got out of a taxi at 4:23 a.m. and headed into her 6th-floor apartment in her Christie Street building in New York City. She had no idea someone had followed her inside. After screams were heard from Christina's apartment, her neighbor called 911. When the police came, they couldn't get into her apartment because someone had barricaded the doors. When they finally forced their way in, they found Christina stabbed to death in her bathroom. She had been stabbed more than 40 times with her own kitchen knife. They also found 25-year-old Asamad Nash hiding under Christina's bed with the murder weapon found behind her dresser. When the door was barricaded, Nash tried to trick the officers into leaving by imitating a woman's voice and saying nobody needed help. When that approach didn't work, he tried using the fire escape, but for some reason ended up back inside and under the bed. Nash was homeless and was out on supervised release for 3 unrelated crimes at the time of Christina's murder. He was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, burglary, and sexually motivated burglary. The DA's office said Nash was found unfit for trial following a psych exam and was remanded to the Department of Mental Health and Hygiene until he is fit enough to proceed.